I saw my sister's message flash across my screen. Don't trust Mom, ever. My blood ran cold. What did she know? The cafe buzzed with the low hum of conversations and the clatter of ceramic mugs. Outside, the neon city lights of 2025 reflected off the wet pavement. I took a shaky sip of my latte. The AR filter on my phone, blurring my features, hiding my growing anxiety. It was supposed to be a normal Tuesday, catching up on emails, checking my blockchain investments. But Sophia's cryptic message had changed everything. Sophia, my little sister, the carefree artist, suddenly sounding like she was caught in a spy thriller. I tried calling her, but it went straight to voicemail. Sophia, call me, please. What's going on? I left the message, my voice trembling. What would you do? Would you panic? Because that's exactly what I was doing. It all started with Dad's bakery. Sweet surrender, he called it. More like slow suicide, if you ask me. Business had been terrible for months. He was drowning in debt, and the bank was threatening to foreclose. He'd always been a terrible businessman, a fantastic baker, but hopeless with finances. Mom, on the other hand, was all about the bottom line. Sharp, calculating, and maybe, just maybe, the reason Sophia was telling me not to trust her. Dad called me, his voice tight with desperation. Caroline, I don't know what to do. I'm going to lose everything. He rambled on about rent, ingredient costs, and the new hyper-personalized cake printers everyone was using. I felt a pang of guilt. I'd always been the responsible one, the successful one. I'd built my own business from scratch, a cybersecurity firm specializing in protecting influencers from doxing and online harassment. I had the means to help him. Against my better judgment, I offered him $8,000. It was a huge chunk of my savings, money I'd been putting aside for a down payment on a condo. But he was my dad. Family, right? He swore he'd pay me back, hugged me so tight I could barely breathe, and promised me the world. He even promised me the first slice of his famous pumpkin pie at Thanksgiving. Fast forward to November. I was already planning my train trip back home when I got the text from Mom. Don't bother coming for Thanksgiving. Dad and I think it's best if you stay away this year. We need to focus on family. Family, I practically screamed at my phone. I gave him $8,000. I saved his business. Tears welled up in my eyes. I called her immediately, but she didn't answer. Dad didn't answer either. I felt sick, betrayed, like I'd been punched in the gut. I was banned from Thanksgiving. Banned. After everything I'd done. What kind of people would do that? I reread Sophia's message 100 times. Don't trust Mom. Ever. It gnawed at me. What was Mom up to? And what did it have to do with Dad's bakery? I started digging, using my cybersecurity skills to look into Sweet Surrender's finances. It wasn't easy. Dad was hopeless with technology, but Mom was surprisingly savvy. She was using a blockchain-based accounting system, making it difficult to trace transactions. But I'm good. Really good. After hours of digging, I found it. A hidden folder, password protected, containing documents detailing a deal Dad had been working on for months. A huge catering contract with a major tech company, the kind that could save Sweet Surrender for good. The contract was contingent on one thing: my company's cybersecurity services. They wanted my firm to protect their event from online threats and data breaches. Dad knew I was the best. That's why he'd asked me to help him, albeit indirectly. But the thing was, he hadn't asked me. Mom had handled all the negotiations with the tech company, pretending I was already on board. She'd even forged my signature on a preliminary agreement. The plan was for Dad to secure the contract, use the profits to pay off his debts, and then, I don't know, cut me out of the picture entirely. My blood boiled. They weren't just ungrateful. They were deceitful. They were using me. I stared at the forged signature on the screen, my hands clenched into fists. What would you do? Would you let them get away with it? That's when I decided to cancel the contract. I knew Dad was counting on this deal. It was his last chance. But I couldn't let them use me like that. I contacted the tech company, explained the situation, and apologized for the inconvenience. They were understanding, even impressed with my honesty. They offered me a different project, one that didn't involve sweet surrender. The following morning, I received a furious phone call from Dad. "Caroline, what have you done? You ruined everything. You canceled the contract." His voice was laced with anger and desperation. "You banned me from Thanksgiving," I said, my voice cold. "You used my money, forged my signature, and then tried to cut me out of the deal. What did you expect?" He tried to deny it, but I cut him off. "I know everything, Dad. Don't lie to me." I hung up, my hands shaking. It felt good, but it also felt awful. I'd hurt him, but he'd hurt me first. Was this revenge, or was I just protecting myself? The silence that followed was deafening. I spent Thanksgiving alone, ordering takeout and watching old movies. I tried not to think about my family, about the pumpkin pie I was missing, but it was impossible. I scrolled through social media, seeing pictures of other families celebrating together. A wave of sadness washing over me. Then my phone buzzed. It was a message from an unknown number. "Meet me at the old carousel at the park. Midnight. Come alone." My heart pounded. What was going on? Was this some kind of twisted prank? Or was it something more serious? I considered ignoring it, but Sophia's message kept replaying in my head. Ever. I had to find out what she knew. The park was deserted, shrouded in darkness. The only light came from the moon, casting long, eerie shadows. The old carousel stood silent and still, its painted horses frozen in mid-gallop. I walked towards it, my senses on high alert. As I approached, I saw a figure emerge from the shadows. It was Sophia. She looked pale and scared, her eyes wide with fear. "Caroline, I had to warn you," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "Mom, she's hiding something, something big." "What is it, Sophia? What's going on?" I asked, my voice trembling. She hesitated, glancing around nervously. "It's about Dad's bakery. It's not just failing. It's being deliberately sabotaged." "Sabotaged? By who?" "By Mom," she whispered. "She's been siphoning money from the business for months, transferring it to a secret offshore account. She wants Dad to fail so she can, I don't know, start over somewhere else." I was stunned. Mom sabotaging Dad's bakery? It seemed impossible, but Sophia was adamant. She'd seen the transactions, the hidden accounts. She'd even found a folder on Mom's computer containing evidence of the scheme. "Why, Sophia? Why would she do that?" "I don't know," she said, shaking her head. "But I think it has something to do with a man she's been seeing. Someone from her past." Suddenly, everything started to make sense. The strange phone calls, the late-night meetings, the way Mom had been acting lately. She was having an affair, and she was using Dad's bakery as a cover. I felt a surge of anger, hotter and more intense than anything I'd felt before. She wasn't just betraying Dad. She was destroying his life. And she was willing to sacrifice her own daughters to get what she wanted. "We have to tell Dad," I said, my voice firm. Sophia hesitated. "I don't know, Caroline. He'll be devastated. And what if Mom finds out we told him? She'll never forgive us." "He deserves to know the truth," I said. "And we can't let her get away with this." It was risky, but we were determined to expose her. We even managed to recover some deleted messages from her phone, revealing the extent of her affair and her plans to leave Dad. The day we confronted Dad was the hardest day of my life. We sat him down at the kitchen table, presented him with the evidence, and watched as his face crumbled. He didn't say a word, just stared blankly at the documents, tears streaming down his face. Mom denied everything, of course. She called us liars, accused us of trying to ruin her life. But the evidence was overwhelming. She had no choice but to confess. The aftermath was messy and painful. Dad was heartbroken, but he was also relieved too. He filed for divorce, and Mom moved out of the house. Sweet Surrender was in worse shape than ever, but Dad was determined to rebuild it. This time with our help. I ended up moving back home for a while, helping Dad manage the bakery and get back on his feet. Sophia contributed her artistic talents, designing new cake decorations and marketing materials. It wasn't easy, but we were a team. We were family. As for Mom, she eventually left the country, moving to be with her new lover. I haven't spoken to her since. I don't know if I ever will. A few months later, Dad secured a new catering contract, even bigger than the last one. He hired a professional accountant to manage the finances, and Sweet Surrender started to thrive. He even started dating again, finding happiness with a woman who appreciated him for who he was. Thanksgiving that year was different. It was just Dad, Sophia, and me. It was quiet, but it was also filled with love and gratitude. We ate pumpkin pie, laughed, and shared stories. It wasn't the perfect Thanksgiving, but it was ours. I learned a lot during that difficult time. I learned that family isn't always what you expect it to be. Sometimes, the people you trust the most can betray you in the worst possible way. But I also learned that you can survive anything, as long as you have the courage to stand up for yourself and the people you love. And what about the $8,000? Dad paid me back, every single penny. He even added interest. He said he wanted to show me how grateful he was. Looking back, I don't regret canceling the contract. It was the right thing to do. I had to protect myself, and I had to hold my family accountable for their actions. But did I forgive them? That's a harder question to answer. I forgave Dad, eventually. He was a victim, just like me. But Mom, I don't know if I can ever forgive her for what she did. What would you have done? Could you forgive someone who betrayed you like that? Now standing here in 2025, watching my dad laugh as he decorates sugar cookies with my own children, I realize that revenge isn't always the answer. Sometimes the best revenge is simply moving on and building a better life for yourself. It's about choosing forgiveness, not for them, but for yourself. It's about reclaiming your power and refusing to let bitterness consume you. The aroma of cinnamon and vanilla fills the air, a comforting reminder of the strength we found within ourselves during our darkest hour. It wasn't about the money or the contract or even Thanksgiving. It was about family, loyalty, and the enduring power of love. So what would you have done? Would you have sought revenge, or would you have chosen forgiveness? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this story, please like and subscribe for more tales of family drama, true crime twists, and the unexpected choices that shape our lives. Write what you'd choose. The park, usually bustling with activity, felt eerie under the pale moonlight. After that Thanksgiving, everything felt different. Dad was trying, really trying, to move on. He started taking cooking classes, experimenting with new flavors, even creating AR filters for his pastries that customers could use on their social media. It was his way of embracing the future, of not letting Mom's betrayal define him. But the hurt was still there, simmering beneath the surface. As for Sophia, she threw herself into her art, creating stunning digital landscapes that reflected her inner turmoil. She started using a new bio ink printer to create three-dimensional installations, transforming abandoned spaces into immersive art experiences. I, on the other hand, became obsessed with finding out the truth about Mom's lover. Who was this man who had driven her to abandon her family and destroy her marriage? I spent weeks digging through online records, social media profiles, and even hacking into a few encrypted messaging apps. It was a dangerous game, but I couldn't stop. I needed to understand what had happened. The answer came in the form of a faded photograph, found buried deep in Mom's old digital files. It was a picture of her and a man, taken years ago before she even met Dad. They were young, carefree, and deeply in love. His name was Daniel, and he was an artist, just like Sophia. But something had happened between them. They'd broken up and Mom had moved on, marrying Dad and starting a family. But Daniel had never forgotten her. He'd tracked her down years later and rekindled their romance. He was the reason she'd been siphoning money from Dad's business. He'd convinced her to leave to start a new life with him, far away from everything she knew. I felt a strange mix of anger and pity. Mom had made terrible choices, but she was also a victim, in a way. She'd been swept away by a long-lost love, blinded by the promise of a second chance. Was that an excuse? No, but it made me understand her actions, at least a little. I decided to confront Daniel. I tracked him down to a small art studio in another city, a place filled with canvases, sculptures, and the lingering scent of paint. He was surprised to see me, but he wasn't apologetic. He claimed that Mom was unhappy with Dad, that he was only giving her what she deserved. She was suffocating, he said, his voice defiant. I freed her. You destroyed her family, I said, my voice trembling with rage. You used her, and you ruined everything, he shrugged. Love makes people do crazy things. I wanted to scream, to hit him, to make him understand the pain he had caused. But I didn't. I just turned around and walked away. What would you have done? Would you have tried to reason with him? Or would you have let your anger take over? The following weeks were a blur. Dad was slowly starting to heal, but the scars were still visible. Sophia was struggling with her own demons, haunted by the knowledge that her art had somehow connected Mom and Daniel. I felt lost, adrift in a sea of uncertainty. Then I got a call from a detective. He was investigating a series of cyber attacks targeting local businesses. He wanted to know if I'd noticed anything suspicious, anything out of the ordinary. I told him about my own cybersecurity firm, about the threats we faced every day. But I didn't mention Mom or Daniel or the secret offshore accounts. I didn't want to drag my family into another mess. A week later, the detective called again. He said they'd traced the cyber attacks to a specific IP address, one that was linked to a prepaid phone. He wanted to know if I recognized the number. I did. It was Daniel's. He wasn't just having an affair with my mother. He was a criminal. He was using his artistic talents to mask his illegal activities, hacking into businesses and stealing their data. Mom had been involved, whether she knew it or not. She'd been providing him with access to Dad's business accounts, unwittingly helping him commit his crimes. I was horrified. I had to tell the detective everything. I knew it would implicate Mom, but I couldn't protect her anymore. She'd crossed the line. The investigation was swift and decisive. Daniel was arrested, and Mom was questioned. She denied any involvement in the cyber attacks, claiming that she had no idea what Daniel was doing. But the evidence was stacked against her. She was charged with conspiracy and money laundering. The trial was a media circus. The story of Mom's affair, Daniel's crimes, and my family's betrayal was splashed across every newspaper and television screen. I had to testify, reliving the most painful moments of my life. It was excruciating, but I knew it was the right thing to do. Mom was eventually convicted and sentenced to prison. It was a harsh sentence, but she deserved it. She'd betrayed her family, broken the law, and hurt a lot of people. I visited her once in prison. She looked tired and defeated, her eyes filled with regret. She apologized for everything she'd done, for the pain she'd caused. I didn't say much. I just listened. When I left, I didn't know if I'd ever see her again. Life went on. Dad rebuilt Sweet Surrender, bigger and better than before. He remarried, finding happiness with a woman who loved him for who he was. Sophia continued to create her art, using her experiences to explore themes of betrayal, forgiveness, and redemption. I focused on my cybersecurity firm, protecting others from the kind of threats that had almost destroyed my family. I learned that forgiveness is a process, not an event. It takes time, patience, and a willingness to let go of the past. I also learned that family isn't always about blood. It's about the people who love you, support you, and stand by you, no matter what. As I sit here now, reflecting on everything that's happened, I realize that I'm stronger than I ever thought possible. I've survived betrayal, heartbreak, and loss. I've faced my demons and come out on the other side. And I'm grateful for every experience, even the painful ones. They've made me who I am today. Rain pattered on my window as I sat in silence, reviewing the latest security protocols for a major social media platform. The digital world was a battlefield, and I was on the front lines, protecting innocent people from the darkness that lurked beneath the surface. A new message blinked on my screen. It was from an unknown sender. "We know what you did." My blood ran cold. Had Daniel somehow managed to reach out from prison? Or was this a new threat, a new enemy lurking in the shadows? I grabbed my phone, my hands shaking. Who was watching me? And what did they want? The message contained a single image, a photograph of me taken through my apartment window just moments ago. I looked around frantically, but I couldn't see anyone. I was being watched, and they knew my secrets. How could I trust anyone now? The chilling photo on my screen felt like an icy hand gripping my heart. Neon city lights flashed over a deserted alley outside my window, mirroring the turmoil within me. I jumped up, adrenaline coursing through my veins. I needed to get out of there. I grabbed my coat and bag and bolted out the door. I didn't know where I was going, but I knew I couldn't stay in my apartment, not anymore. I hailed a self-driving taxi, punching in a random address across town. As the car sped through the city streets, I tried to piece together what was happening. Who was targeting me, and why? Was it related to Mom and Daniel? Had someone from their past come back to haunt me? Or was it something else entirely, something connected to my work? My mind raced, searching for answers, but all I found was a tangled web of questions. The taxi pulled up to my destination, a trendy cafe with free Wi-Fi and glass walls. I got out, paid the fare with my blockchain wallet, and walked inside. The cafe was bustling with activity, filled with the low hum of conversations and the clatter of keyboards. I found a quiet corner, ordered a coffee, and pulled out my laptop. I needed to do some digging to find out who was behind the anonymous message. I started by tracing the IP address of the email. It was routed through a series of proxy servers, making it difficult to pinpoint the exact location, but I was persistent. After hours of searching, the IP address led to a virtual private server located in a data center in Eastern Europe.